Right now, the Senate is debating the tax bill. The parliamentarian has rejected 3 provisions in the tax bill, saying they violate budget rules. The move will force the House to hold another vote on the revised legislation on Wednesday. The House approved the most sweeping tax rewrite in decades along party lines, with lawmakers voting 227 to 203 in support. However, the House will have to vote again after the Senate parliamentarian rejected 3 provisions in the Senate bill. Both chambers must pass identical bills. The Senate is expected to hold a final vote on Tuesday night or early Wednesday. President Trump is expected to sign the bill into law soon after the final votes. The House on Tuesday approved the most sweeping tax overhaul in decades, voting along party lines to enact deep and permanent tax cuts for corporations and temporary cuts for individuals. The vote puts Republicans closer to final passage of the $1.5 trillion tax cut as the Senate prepares to vote on the final bill on Tuesday. However, the Senate parliamentarian has rejected 3 provisions from the Senate bill, saying they violate so-called Byrd rules. This means the House will have to vote again on the revised bill since both chambers must pass identical bills. Republicans hit a last-minute speed bump in their supercharged effort to pass a tax bill on Tuesday when the Senate parliamentarian advised that 3 provisions in the bill ran afoul of Senate rules. The Democratic minority in the Senate said 3 components of the bill were at issue: a provision expanding the use of 529 savings accounts for K-12 expenses, a provision regarding the title of the bill, and part of the criteria for whether universities are subject to an excise tax that the bill imposes on investment income. The Senate's so-called Byrd rules are complicated, but most come down to a key question: does the change in the law affect the federal budget? Legislative changes with no budgetary impact are not allowed in reconciliation bills. Items that have a nominal budget impact, but are mostly there for policy reasons, are also supposed to be struck, though that's a more subjective standard. Here's a refresher for those interested in the so-called Byrd bath. The 529 expansion was proposed by Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, whose amendment during debate on the original Senate bill required a tie-breaking vote by Vice President Mike Pence. The parliamentary stumble does not imperil the overall tax rewrite, but the House will now need to vote again on the tax bill after the Senate gives its approval. The extra House vote is expected to take place on Wednesday. Republicans are passing the tax overhaul using special budget rules that shield the bill from a Democratic filibuster in the Senate. But in doing so, they face restrictions on the contents of the bill. Senator Patrick J. Toomey, Republican of Pennsylvania, said the ruling would not change the bill's trajectory in the Senate. If we lose on any of them, none are large enough to jeopardize the standing of the overall bill, he said. House Speaker Paul D.